Hold up, don't scroll away yet. Last time we broke down a list of iconic guns linked to famous leaders, but we're not done. Today we're back with part 2, diving into some of history's most notorious leaders. And yes, I mean that literally. Alright, let's get into it. Winston Churchill, Britain's battle-hardened World War II Prime Minister, loved firearms, and was actually a solid shot. During World War II, he often carried a Webley Scott Model 1913 pistol in 7.65mm for personal protection. But the most iconic moment came in 1940, when Churchill posed with the Thompson submachine gun, the famous Tommy gun. The photo hit like a thunderclap. Brits saw the pure "we're fighting to the end" energy, while Nazi propaganda jumped onto it to paint Churchill as a bloodthirsty gangster. Goebbels even printed leaflets using Churchill's gun photo, with bold "wanted" headlines to smear him. Churchill didn't care. He even corrected people, insisting his pistol grips were ivory, not mother of pearl, when someone described them wrong. Adolf Hitler, the Nazi dictator, preferred small caliber pistols. His constant companion was a 7.65mm Walther PPK, and that's the gun tied to his death in the bunker in 1945. Earlier, Hitler also owned something far more showy. In 1939, for his 50th birthday, Walter reportedly gifted him a gold-plated Walther PP, intricately engraved with AH monogram in ivory grips. Hitler kept that prize pistol in his office in Munich. Near the end of the war, a U.S. soldier, Sergeant Ira Palm, reportedly found the gold PP in Hitler's abandoned office. After that, the pistol's trail turned messy. It was stolen at one point, resurfaced in the United States, and passed through multiple collectors. In 1987, it reportedly sold at auction for $114,000. Today, the gold Walther's exact whereabouts are unknown, making it a lingering historical mystery. Heinrich Himmler. Hitler's SS chief wasn't known as a standout shooter, but his name is tied to chilling reward guns. Himmler reportedly pushed a system where snipers who reached 100 confirmed kills could be awarded a special Sauer 38H pistol, engraved with Himmler's signature. The incentive scaled up in a grim leader. 50 kills earned leaves and a high-end watch, 100 kills earned the engraved pistol, and 150 kills supposedly meant a hunting trip with Himmler. These Himmler presentation pistols are extremely rare, made in a one-time batch with serials clustered around 475396 to 475409. Himmler himself often carried a small Walther PPK, and he was left-handed. He was even photographed practicing one-handed left-handed shooting with a Luger P08. In the end, he never used a gun in his final moment. When captured in 1945, he committed suicide by biting down on a poison capsule. General George S. Patton. America's most fiery World War II general loved showing off his sidearms. He famously wore 2 revolvers on his hips, marked by bright white ivory grips, and he hated when people mistakenly called them mother of pearl. One was a Colt Single Action Army 45, the classic 1873 Peacemaker. The other was an early Smith Wesson 357 Magnum. Patton treated the Colt 45 as his everyday carry. The 357 Magnum was his battlefield killer, meaning if he truly had to shoot, he'd draw the Magnum for extra punch. Those 2 guns became so tied to his image that they show up in statues and in films about him. General Douglas MacArthur, the legendary Pacific commander behind "I shall return."
I shall return. Tonight, I repeat those words. I shall return.
Carried a surprisingly modest pistol. Throughout World War II, MacArthur kept a Colt M1903 Pocket Hammerless in .32 close at hand. Designed by John Browning, it was a compact semi-auto. MacArthur received it as a gift when he served as superintendent of West Point, and he carried it through the 1942 defense of the Philippines. For a man with a massive career and a giant shadow, his favorite sidearm was small but serious. After the war, he was presented with Army ceremonial pistols, but the classic MacArthur look that stuck in history is the pipe, the sunglasses, and that little Colt on his hip. President Theodore Roosevelt. He was a hardcore hunter with a serious weapon collection. But his most legendary gun is the one that literally went under the sea. It was a Colt New Army 1895 revolver in .38, recovered from the wreck of the USS Maine, the warship sunk in 1898 that helped spark the Spanish-American War. Gifted by his brother-in-law, Roosevelt carried that revolver when he led the Rough Riders in the charge up San Juan Hill in 1898. In that battle, he shot and killed at least one enemy soldier with his ghost gun. Afterward, Roosevelt had the revolver engraved. One side noted it was recovered from the Maine, the other marked the date that Colonel Roosevelt carried it at San Juan. The gun became a prized artifact displayed at Sagamore Hill. President George Washington. The founding father lived in the age of flintlocks, and the pair he owned is basically priceless. In 1778, during the American Revolution, the Marquis de Lafayette gifted Washington an elegant pair of French-style flintlock pistols as a sign of deep respect. Washington cherished them for life. After he died, the pistols passed through President Andrew Jackson and later into the hands of collectors. In 2002, the Lafayette Washington pistols set an auction record, selling for nearly $2 million. Today, they're displayed at the Fort Ligonier Museum in Pennsylvania. President Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln rarely carried guns, but he helped turn one into a legend. In 1863, he personally test-fired the Spencer repeating rifle on the grounds near the White House. He reportedly hit targets with 7 rapid shots at roughly 40 meters, an impressive demo that helped push the U.S. Army to adopt the Spencers faster. Thanks to a president with a steady trigger finger, Union troops got new firepower that helped win battles. But Lincoln is also tied to a different gun in a tragic moment, the single-shot Derringer 44. John Wilkes Booth used to assassinate him at Ford's Theater in 1865. That one bullet wrote a brutal chapter of history. The murder weapon is still preserved at the Ford's Theater Museum as a stark historical artifact. Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. He may have been small in stature, but his personal arms were anything but. The most famous is a matching garniture set made by a master gunsmith, Nicholas Noel Boutet. The set has 6 pieces, 1 carbine, 2 escort pistols, 2 pocket pistols, and a sword, all finely engraved in silver inlaid in imperial style. The set was presented to Napoleon in 1797 to honor his early victories. More than 200 years later, Napoleon's Boutet gun and sword set was sold at auction in 2016 for $2.8 million, setting a world record. Napoleon also used luxury firearms as diplomacy. In 1800, he gifted a pair of Boutet pistols to British Captain Marshall as a goodwill gesture. That pair was auctioned in 2024 for over 100,000 euros. For Napoleon, guns weren't just weapons, they were art, status, and high-end political gifts. President Ulysses S. Grant. This Civil War general and U.S. president recently set a record that's basically unbeatable in the antique gun world. In 2022, a pair of silver-plated Remington New Model Army revolvers, lavishly engraved and originally presented to General Grant in 1863, went up for auction. The result? $5.17 million, making them the most expensive firearms were ever sold at an auction. Why is it so valuable? First, the provenance. They belong to Grant, a central figure in preserving the Union and ending slavery. Second, the rarity and craftsmanship. The revolvers were especially made by Remington and engraved by the legendary artist Lois Nimsky, known for ornate, flowing scrollwork. Grant's family kept the pair for more than 150 years before they reappeared. Today, collectors treat them like national treasures in the firearms world. And that's our trip across the time and place, uncovering 20 stories behind historic guns tied to legendary figures. Some stories are triumphant, some are heartbreaking, and some hit you with a weird, unexpected laugh. If you enjoyed digging into stories like these, drop a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next video. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. See you next time.